Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for returning to the fireside chats at Raisina Dialogue 2022. We are here for a fireside chat on climate change adaptation and disaster resilience. My name is Galit Palzur, and I specialize in risk management of extreme events and climate change. I will be happy to moderate this session with three special guests, which I would like to introduce now. We have Excellency President Mohamed Nasheed, Speaker of the Parliament and former President of Maldives. And we have Excellency Richard Randriamandrato, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Madagascar, and Excellency Mr. Hugh Hilton Todd, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Guyana. Thank you for all of you to join us here. We have in this setting, three countries that are situated in climate hotspots and are very prone to severe climate change related disasters. And the devastating impacts of every cyclone, drought, or flood makes it that much harder to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. I would like to ask President Nasheed one general question first. We know that increased CO2 levels at the atmosphere are leading to rising sea temperatures and rising ocean acidity levels, which these threaten the coral ecosystems and other marine habitats. The Maldives depends on tourism and fishing for economic growth and for living. Do you feel let down by the international community?
Well, thank you very much, and it's lovely to be in Delhi joining the Raisina Dialogue. Are we disappointed that those who created the problem by all these poisonous gases to the atmosphere are unwilling to amend their ways, and neither are they actually willing to assist us in appropriate adaptation? Yes, we are disappointed and also shocked and unable to understand the naivety and the ignorance of this all. Climate change is happening, and it is happening now and very rapidly. When global temperatures rise and ocean temperature rises, the coral bleaches and it dies. Our islands are made out of coral. And once you have removed the coral base that the island is formed upon, then you don't have an island. You, of course, right now, because of the damages to the diversity, we've lost so much fish within the reefs. And also the reefs protects the shoreline from erosion. And because of the degradation of the reefs, our shorelines are getting eroded. It is happening, and we are having to change or bring people from one island to the other. And it is already creating a fair amount of economic challenges and social challenges. We must amend our ways, and talking about 30 years and 40 years is useless for us. If you're not willing to do it now, we don't have a conversation. There's no point talking to you. There's no point talking to anyone. I will not be around in 20 years, or my country will not be around in 20 years. And unless we see this as a climate emergency, and unless we try to amend our ways rapidly, then we will not survive. Now, on what kind of adaptation do we want? I remember in 2009 in Copenhagen, 26 big countries, the most richest, the most wealthiest countries, sat together, including me, in Copenhagen, and they agreed to pay $100 billion a year for adaptation. Now, when we came into COP26, the OECD came out and said that they've reached about 70% of that. But that's like you doing your own homework. You kind of marking your own homework when OECD comes to that. And if you ask any of our countries on how that figure is arrived at, you would see that when you give a school, then there is a solar panel on top of it. So apparently it's climate change assistance, the whole school and the solar panel. So these kind of calculations and these kind of auditing reflections doesn't look very good. We hope and we feel, we hope that the international community understands the gravity of the issue, that you have to attend to it now and do it rapidly. Yes, we are disappointed.
Okay, thank you. Now that we know the challenge is immense, let's go talk about the solutions. And I'd like to address Your Excellency, Mr. Randriamandrato. What can be done to address this crisis, and specifically speaking, what frameworks would bring climate change adaptation and resilience into the development and infrastructure planning process?
Well, first of all, I'm very happy to participate to this important dialogue 2022, and Madagascar is very honored to attend this year's, forum. So, what can be done? We already know what shall be, commit every countries in the world. We know that, for example, the United Nations framework on climate change was signed a long time ago, 28 years ago, in 1994, which means that there is already a global concern about what should be done. But unfortunately, it looks like big countries, as the President said previously, are dragging their foot, and they are waiting for I don't know what disaster to happen until we devote enough, first of all, enough financial, support to particularly countries, small state countries that do not have that financial capacity to address infrastructure needs. And again, this is a global concern. So perhaps, and until we really shout louder than what we are already doing right now, that countries like the United States of America, European countries, India and China, and to name but a few, countries that have the capacity to mobilize enough financial funds to address the issues globally, then we would be at the same level of talking. So yes,
so
we have
basically
in the small islands and small states like ours, challenges ahead, but it should be addressed globally.
So basically you're saying that it's a matter of funding.
Mostly
Yes.
funding. To give an example, on the carbon credit solution, in the case of Madagascar, for example, we managed to mobilize funding from the World Bank, precisely 10 million credit at the cost of $5 per credit, which means roughly 50 million already mobilized. I think we will be able to address what, for example, His Excellency the President of Maldives mentioned on issues on the sea and all that. But this is just a start. And by the way, in Madagascar, for the time being, we put on hold private initiative on selling carbon credit, because there is a danger there. If perhaps a carbon credit doesn't cost $5 a ton, it could be more, and it shall be more than that. And so we definitely need to mobilize more funds. It's not just a question of money. It's also a question of a moral responsibility for the generation to come.
Okay. Thank you. On that same subject, I'd like to ask Your Excellency, Minister Todd, how can investment in disaster and climate resilient infrastructure accelerate the progress on the Sustainable Development Goals and also the Paris Agreement and the Sendai Framework?
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be in Delhi, and I'm happy to be part of this distinguished panel of small states. I want to first endorse what His Excellency the President would have mentioned, as well as my colleague here to my right. We are dealing with small states. We are inherently vulnerable. We have challenges that will never go away. We will live and die with it, and the next generation will inherit the same challenges that we have. One disaster can disrupt our entire economy. That is how vulnerable we are. And when you add climate change and changing weather patterns to that mix, you see how dire we are. Has multilateralism failed small economies when it comes to climate change? We've had conferences, discussions, symposiums. We've had enough conversation on climate change. We need action. Small states are punching above their weight at the national level. It's really a self-help issue. We are working assiduously at the national level, which is also a strain on our budget to cope with the effects of climate change. And we're doing so admirably, all of the small states. And when we speak out loudly, we are heard, but action is not taken. And I think it's time for action. We need to stop having all of the fancy conversations and get to action. The science is real. It's been endorsed widely at the multilateral level, but we don't have the buy-in from those countries that are actually causing most harm. So we need to have action, and we need to dial back on the conversation. We've had enough conversation on this. For Guyana, we have been doing our part in helping to promote climate action, and our national policies have been designed to cater for such. At the regional level, we are very active as well, and we try to ensure that we are a leader when it comes to climate change. And I know that His Excellency is also a global leader on climate change, and I know that your work is well admired, as well as very passionate. And we are very passionate because our countries are a threat. Our survival is a threat, and we need to focus on funding, financing for resilience building, because we are about building resilience. We are continuously building resilience as a small state. For example, in the case of Guyana, 80% of our economy or population live on the low coastal plain, which is about below sea level. So rising sea levels can affect us. We've had a flood in 2005, which disrupted the entire economy. It took us years to recover. We had another flood in 2020, which we've become very proficient in dealing with crises. So we have a civil defense commission that is really adapted well to the changing conditions, and we perform very well. But we need more financing. We need financing to help us to cope. We have to take monies from the Treasury and redirect it to issues that are not caused by us. And I think that is something that is not good for small economies. We need small economies at the multilateral level to help in other global efforts. But when it comes to climate change, seems not to be much action taken.
Okay, thanks.
If I can pick up from His Excellency, most of the climate vulnerable countries are also debt-ridden. Now, we took the loan, and we took the loan believing that UNFCCC was saying that carbon emission and climate change actually didn't have a relationship. Now, they've been saying that until last year. So we took a loan thinking that if this project is viable, then we could pay it back. But no, it's not viable. Suddenly it has destroyed all our countries, and we cannot now pay back the loan. So there's a kind of a force majeure situation where we can't, because of consequences outside our own doing, pay back the loan. So I think the first victim would be bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Now, if Sri Lanka, for instance, now has another disaster, they will go under. And it's difficult to say that they will not have a disaster in June. That's what we've been seeing. And also, 1 million refugees from the Middle East, and another 3 million, for instance, refugees from Ukraine. And the West thinks that, this is a disaster. Wait,
Yeah,
there'll be
for
a
the climate.
billion going to your place.
Yes, climate related.
There will be a billion of us going to Europe. This is going to happen quickly. The coastal areas of the world accounts to a quarter of the world's population. And they are all going to be on the move. We don't seem to understand this. And what kind of adaptation can we come up with? Can we build huge walls around our countries? No, you can't.
Yeah. So that's another question for...
It's $8,000 a meter to build a revetment and an embankment. $8,000 a meter. Okay, if I have a few minutes, if I may.
We only have 5 more minutes left.
So $8,000 a meter, and we have 2,000 islands. India alone is 1,400 kilometers. Bangladesh is another 500 kilometers. Tanzania, his country, every country. You can't build wall around. There is no infrastructure possible for this.
Yes.
Now, can we have nature-based solutions? Can you have a polyp that would survive? Can you have a sand grain that would retain water? Can you have a tree that would not burn? Do we have the science for that?
I would like, no,
Let me add my voice.
I just want to...
say that there is a race against the odds, and if we don't act now, the price
Yes.
of the price of that waiting for a better time will be much, much higher.
Yes.
Look at what was written on newspaper yesterday or the day before yesterday, that the world may run out of food in 20 years now, as a scientist said. So imagine the burden to the global community if small states and fragile states
It's
are
amazing
left
your
aside.
naivety and
Sorry,
ignorance.
you have questions, but
No, I want
covered
to, I
the
want,
most
I want to
important
hear about Madagascar's, let's say how you are dealing with the credits, carbon credits, and do you utilize it?
Well, we are reforesting our country massively. We are trying to do the best we can, but it's never enough. So we use it the best we can. We educate people as well. We are teaching the kids and the youth to think of the future and to avoid making the mistakes that the others are doing, that we are doing, and to address their, the next challenges with ethical manner. So there are many.
Maybe
things to
Honorable
do.
Todd,
Just
can
But
you,
again, we are facing that
Yeah.
with courage.
could you also
just to add to what His Excellency was saying, migration will be a big problem for the developed states, and it's a direct correlation between climate change and migration.
is that part of your,
This is science. So, if countries are going to disappear, where the population going to go?
yes.
They will look for places to go, and migration will be an issue.
We will jump on a boat. The
And-
first thing
and
we'll do
there'll
is
be there'll be a
jump on a
challenge.
boat. And then suddenly you would have hundreds of boats and boat people all over the world.
It's a
And
challenge.
they will go to these shows. They will go to Europe, and they will go to these places.
Exactly.
And I really, it's
Yeah.
amazing the naivety and the ignorance of it all.
And to
Does
add to
it-
that,
does the
we are
international community- wait,
we are
and-
praised at the national level for efforts
Can I
in
ask
combating
just a
climate change,
question
but
about
nothing is done at the multilateral level.
the refugees of climate change? Is it something that has been addressed?
It's a
No, they don't
conversation.
even want to
It's a
mention the word
conversation.
refugee. There is a long sentence that Europeans use for climate displaced people. They don't even want to mention the word refugee. But please calculate how much money that this is going to be.
Yes. Yes.
This is going to destroy everyone's
Yeah.
livelihood, not just ours. When we go down, I think you will go down with us.
We are actually also in the hotspot regarding climate
Well,
change.
sorry that we are getting at you, but
No, but my country is also in a hotspot. What final words, because we have to wrap
Final
up.
word,
Yes.
World War III is not in Eastern Europe. The $8 million that they are devoted for a war in Europe, and maybe more, this is not where they have to put their money. It's on the future of this planet.
Yeah.
And we may be small in size, small state, economically speaking. We may be fragile, but look at the moral responsibility to millions of people as well in our countries.
Okay.
It will be a burden for the future.
Would you like to say final words?
We just need action. And we need action from the large emitters who are responsible for the human activity that would have caused us to be in this situation. And we don't need another conversation. We need financing for adaptation and resilience building.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Thank you.
well, this, everyone's saying the same thing. We need more money to science as well. We need to find a new diversity. We know that we've lost this biodiversity. So where is a resilient coral? Do we have a resilient coral? Is there a resilient coral? I think there is a resilient coral. Can we enhance its growth quicker? Can we start using nature as adaptation? Now, Guyana has, and they're all planting trees. You travel across Europe on a plane, it's flat. For 700 years, they've been cutting down trees. And, how can we rewilden? And they have to stop using all that land for farming, find new technology for farming, vertical farming, and then grow their forest. I think we need Europe to grow forests, not us.
Yeah.
And to add to that, our standing forest in Guyana is the size of England.
Wow. Yeah.
So that is
So
our...
we
But I
definitely
know that
have.
England
we-
has cut down all their forests,
Yeah.
and they built ships out of that.
So there's a lot to take from this session. Our time has come to an end, and yes, it was very interesting. And I'd like to thank all three of you, and thank you for everyone who is listening to us. And see you in the next session.
Thank you.